Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed Pod. This is episode 83. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson, and I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody is doing well and maybe recovering or celebrating from your favorite company's earnings statements. I think we got a little bit of both. I think we got one side of the coin that's unhappy and maybe one side of the coin that's a little more happier than the others.
Well, just to make sure we're noted to our fans, we're not celebrating anybody's revenues or profits because none of that's coming into my bank account.
My pockets are empty.
Some of the decisions benefit us, at least as far as products and services are concerned, but we are never necessarily rooting for anyone or other the company. Now, we may have a little schadenfreude when a company's doing poorly, but that's a different thing. And again, that's never to the realities of people working at the company doing poorly. Nevertheless, we want to welcome you guys back this week where we will be talking about Microsoft building AI supercomputers, France breaking up with Teams because of politics and security. At least that's what they're saying. TikTok rewriting its terms of service like a jealous ex. It's gotten really crazy over there, and I don't know how many of you are listening that are on there. You may want to listen up to see what we have to say about that, because I got lots of thoughts. With that being said, let's talk about what's bothering us this week in tech first. We kind of always start off with that.
Well, tech for me this week is a little concerning overall because and we're going to talk about it, the earnings statements were not what we wanted them to be. That's one highlight for me. But the other highlight for me is something else we're going to talk about. The agentic browser called Google Chrome.
Okay,
that bothers me a little bit because I covered that because it was of particular interest to me. And it bothers me when I know that there's a possibility of an AI bot that is out there taking actions and even making purchases or paying bills, etc. for me. That scares the bank account, folks. That bothers me. How about you?
What is bothering me is PayPal, specifically PayPal.
PayPal.
Digital currency, yes. I had sold a piece of tech this past couple of days, and and again, this is very specific. So for those of you who couldn't be bothered with it, just fast forward maybe 3 minutes because it would be that long. I sold a piece of tech, got cash for it. I have a credit union that I opened up in California. It does not exist out here in Florida, so it's very hard to get cash into my bank account that way. Checks, easy, no problem. You do the app, you photograph it. It's in your account. Easy peasy. And I don't want to open up another bank account or credit union account here because I don't want to have to maintain two when I don't need to. And it's only rare that I have to put cash into my account. So it never has been a problem. But it has been for the past 2 days because I'm trying to figure out a way to get cash into that account. And the app says like, oh, you can go to an ATM. Most ATMs out here don't support it. So I came up with the solution of PayPal. And I can get cash into my PayPal account. I can digitally transfer it into my account. The problem with PayPal, though, is that you have to go to specific locations, have a barcode, scan the barcode with the person at the register, give them the money, and they will put it in the account. That all seems perfectly fine, except terms of service for this is that you can only do $500 a day. It's like a top limit, and then they charge you to transfer the money into your account. And they charge you the deposit fee. So it's $3.95 to put cash into their account to use this service digitally. And I get it, you gotta run servers, whatever. But then it's another $7, almost $8 to transfer it, what they say instantly. So we put the money in, have it transferred out of the account. Almost $8 to do that. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do the free one, which will take up to 3 days. I'm not in a rush to get in the account. I just want to get it in there. I've been doing that for, 2 days now. And it keeps coming with this error saying like, hey, we can't process that transaction right now. And I'm like, why? I put the money into PayPal. It's sitting there. I know you guys recognize it. I've had this PayPal account for years. It's been tied to my bank for years. years. It's been tagged my debit card for years. Why all of a sudden are you saying, oh, don't take your money out of our account and give it to your regular account. Just keep it, just let it sit there. So this feels like a conspiracy to me. Again,
that is a little weird.
Oh, again, I waited 24 hours to be like, all right, I get it. If you're trying to say, hey, I don't want you to do a scam where you like pretend to put money in digitally and then put money and then no actual money's in the account, and then you transfer digital $500 that was never there into your bank account. Now you have $500, PayPal never got the money, and it's all kind of fraud. I get that, but it's been sitting in the account for a day now. I could probably go out and spend it if I chose to, but I'm like, I want to just transfer it. So two things: transaction fees for digital transactions. Again, I get it for the server to like host this, in-person service and to like have, probably pay, like the Dollar Tree, Walgreens, Publix, whatever these companies are, to support that. I get it. You have to pay those out. The $3.95, no issue whatsoever. The $7.95 to transfer it digitally, just to say, take, these pixels of, these dots and turn it into dots on this account. What are you doing, PayPal? What are you doing? Well, and I'm sure it's not just PayPal. I mean, you could probably do this with a lot of other services that are all digital. Like you just want to move things digitally, and they're like, "Oh, here's a fee for that."
Can I pick on you for just a minute? Let's go way back, and this will take 30 seconds. Who was one of the original founders of PayPal? Just take that in for a minute and process that. How did he become the richest man in the world?
Richest, and both he and Peter Thiel, both just super evil men. So I get it, but if there were any other way to do this without using PayPal, I would have tried. I mean, I tried to do a cashier's check, and that's $40. And at the end of the day, it may have just made more sense to do it that way. But either way, I guess my larger complaint is less than PayPal. It's just transaction fees. Transaction fees have gotten ridiculous, and some of them are just like superfluous. Like they just put a tax. Or they'll say convenience fee, and you're like, who's convenient for who? When you go to a hotel, same thing. They're like, here's your hotel room, and here's like $20 for convenience fees. You're like, what? That's nebulous. Break it down. What exactly are the charges?
And has anybody, and I know we do not need to go down this road, but has anybody noticed their convenience fees going up recently? I have. I know. For example, our water bill here. My water is fairly inexpensive. I can't complain with the amount, with what I'm charged monthly for water. But that $3.95 fee on the end just to swipe a card, well, a couple months ago it was a $2.95 fee, and I noticed it was a $3.95 fee the last water bill I paid on. $3.95, times several thousand people, and I'm like, okay, $3.95 times several. That's some nice little pocket change there off those fees that somebody's making. Maybe we just need to open up a blind credit card processor. Maybe that's what we all need to do, is put our money in a pot and open up a blind credit card processor and charge fees and make money. Maybe that's what we need to do.
Apparently, it's just getting ridiculous. I mean, but this also goes to the same thing we've always talked about in this pod. Line must go up, and they figured out a way to just slowly boil us. Nevertheless, that's what we've been frustrated about. That was 9 minutes of your time, of your day. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Let's get you into the news. Again, we promised news, so we're gonna give it to you. We got Microsoft fiscal year 2026 Q1 earnings. So this is the first round of tech earnings we've been seeing out. I think Tesla had theirs, and they didn't do very well. Apple blew everyone off the doors with crazy iPhone sales. I guess, charging more for the new iPhones will do that for you. We'll also be talking about, but we won't be talking about Apple, just Microsoft. Adobe has a new Photoshop, I guess, AI platform thing that's supposed to help boost your Photoshop performance. I wrote in the context of this particular upgrade, how does this fare with Affinity? Because they're now, almost toe-to-toe in line with I think people's mind share for this kind of stuff. The other thing we got is France decides it's going to slowly roll out a new sovereign enterprise chat and drop Teams. That's the big headline. Is that they're now saying, you know what, because we can't trust Microsoft or the United States, we're going to come up with their own thing. And they aren't the only company, but France was the big headline this week. Google unveils a major Gemini upgrade. We're going to have David talk about that. Microsoft also came out with a new accelerator, AI accelerator, essentially. It's a type of chip, I suppose, that's supposed to make using AI, or at least developing AI or creating AI, use less resources. Ideally, this is what Microsoft's looking to, I guess, scale back on the amount of resources data centers are going to need in the future. Not currently, but sometime 5-10 years down the line, when all the trees are gone and all the water's poisoned. Then there's the TikTok terms of service backlash, which there is a big backlash. We're going to get into that. If you haven't been on TikTok or on any other form of social media, we're going to update you on what's going down with that. With that being said, let's get into our first story, shall we? And that is Microsoft's earnings. And this starts off with, let me sure I get all the notes for you guys on that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know that Microsoft did very well, and I think there's.
Well, they did. It's a double-edged sword, and I wrote this kind of as a tongue-in-cheek. Microsoft's earnings were like a mullet. They were like party in the front, like at all the great numbers, because we did post revenue, and then being business in the front, and the questions were all in the back. All of the things that were interesting were in the back of the report, things that they kind of sidelined and shuffled and buried, so to speak. But revenue was up across the cloud. Productivity and personal computing were all big sections that did well. Azure continues to be the golden child for Microsoft. Again, as much as they want to reorient around AI, Azure still seems to be the big thing. And again, they type AI into Azure. And part of the reason why Azure is doing so well is because of promises from OpenAI to use it in order to keep it going. So it's kind of like a dog eating its own tail, essentially. It's, or snake eating its own tail. Because OpenAI is going to use so much Azure, Microsoft can go to its investors and say, look, Azure usage is up, but it's for a very questionable AI platform that, everyone hasn't necessarily bought into. The AI infrastructure costs are ballooning for Microsoft. This is where we start to get towards the back of the haircut, where we saw Azure numbers up and everyone's like, ooh, great. But why? And that's because, again, AI infrastructure costs are ballooning. Analysts want a little clarity on long-term earnings, and Microsoft insists that investments are strategic and necessary. Just to get a couple of numbers down and out of the way for you guys to, spread this to your friends and sound intelligent about these conversations. Revenue for Microsoft rose about 18%. That added about $12 billion to the top line. Growth was broad across productivity and business processes, intelligent computing and more personal. I think operating income rose about 24%. So again, that's pretty huge if you're looking at percentages as far as what it's costing us in order to generate $12 billion. Again, Microsoft was on the call saying, hey, we have aggressive AI investments that should turn a profit more quickly. If we, slow roll these investments, it would seem worse. That's basically their pitch for this. There was a closer, as you take a close look at some of the businesses, because Microsoft likes to separate their businesses, productivity and business processes generated about $33 billion in revenue. That's about $20 billion in operating income. Office of Microsoft 365 Commercial continued to be kind of like the big driver quietly behind the scenes. Dynamic 365 and LinkedIn also had pretty solid gains. LinkedIn continues to be a very profitable purchase for Microsoft in the long run. I know people were kind of like, yeah, we get Microsoft and LinkedIn kind of go hand in hand, but why? Well, apparently they figured it out, and it's working well for them. Intelligent Cloud, which is Azure, server products and enterprise services, delivered about $30.9 billion in revenue. which turns out to be in real world dollars, it's about 13.4 billion in operating income. Azure's growth was about 40%, which is again very impressive, but it highlights that they have big buy-ins to AI, which has yet to actually turn a profit. So who knows how long this jump will last, and if it does come crashing down, that's going to be pretty huge too. A big hole you're going to have to start accommodating for in your next couple quarterly earnings. Now, the more personal computing is the stuff we enjoy. Again, it's Xbox, Windows, all those kind of things. That was a different story. Windows Surface hardware and Xbox hardware was down, but it is still managed to bring in about $13.8 billion in revenue, about $4.6 billion in operating income. Windows OEMs rose. And again, these are OEMs who license for new laptops, which should be coming out this year with Snapdragon processors, this new Intel chip that everyone's kind of going gaga over, Panther Lake. That rose about 18%. And again, that's partly because everyone's starting to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So it's a temporary boost. It's always planned. But we'll see if it's a sign of longer momentum as more people move from Windows 10. I think they said, what do we have, like 1 billion people on Windows 10, and now they're going to have 1 billion people on Windows 11. Gaming is what I wrote about, and I'll end this section with that. Was pretty bad. Hardware revenue fell about 29%.
Ooh.
And Xbox content and services grew only 1%.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wrote about this saying that it's in quote unquote transition, according to the executives at Xbox. But they did have a healthy 50% increase in search and news advertising, which again, I think that shows that people are starting to use Copilot, or I guess Bing/Copilot a little bit more, which is good. Nevertheless, back to the Xbox gaming part. Again, we said this transition. Call of Duty, we've already reported last week, I think, or week before last, that it's not doing the numbers it needed to, at least over the long term. It had a big push at the first weekend, and now it's kind of trailed down. The first party exclusives for Xbox are few and far in between, despite being one of the biggest publishers out there. They've also canceled a bunch of stuff. They've restricted the ability to make new things that could potentially pull a profit for them just by downsizing a lot of stuff. And again, we're seeing that Sony is still selling PlayStation, even though they're not selling as many of them, they're still selling them. So hardware is still something. Microsoft seems to have atrophied this and just like let it die in the vine versus trying to figure out a way to transition people to the next whatever box they sell. And I think it's a horrible strategy because now people have lost trust in whatever the next box is going to be. So even if they come out with an amazing piece of hardware next year, or whenever they come out with the next Xbox, I think people are going to be done with that. They may, again, and it may be part of Microsoft's strategy to get everyone on services, but I don't think they're doing it as smoothly as they had planned. What are your thoughts on all of these numbers and news?
I'm going to try to summarize it as briefly as possible. One, the Azure revenue is not surprising because, as you said, we're paying for AI basically. But as you said, the party's in the front, the not so good news is in the back. We're losing money on AI, and we see that now. There's numbers to show us that, and I don't know off the top of my head how long these numbers have been in the negative. I would say at least 2 quarters, probably 3. That we can get an idea of what these negative numbers are going to look like. But to a bit of good news, as you mentioned, the use of news and services are up a little bit, which means people are using Bing and they're using Copilot, but obviously they're not using them enough because we're not getting that $20 income for Copilot Pro or Microsoft 365 subscriptions that include your use for Copilot. So what do we do here? We have to realize that AI is expensive. I mean, just go look at the price of RAM. Speaking of AI, I did a comparison this morning for something I was thinking about writing, that RAM last year, roughly 64 gigs was $100, 150. Now that same 64 gigs of RAM is $300, $350. So AI has driven up the cost of hardware, We still haven't seen a return on that. So how deep do we dig this hole, and what turns it around? Because I think, we're not going to wake up one day and say, okay, Copilot didn't work, it's dead. No, people use it, people do depend on it. I think we're already at that point. But does it shift to the business subscriptions, for some of these options? Possibly. But I don't think we can just keep throwing these AI features out there going, what dart sticks? What do people want? I just don't see these investors at any company, not just Microsoft, saying, hey, we're going to keep throwing money into this thing you keep calling AI, and you keep building things. And when you hit when the dart hits the center of the board, you let us know, okay? That's not the way this works. And it's kind of the same for Xbox. Xbox has been down for several quarters. And I'm going to agree with something that I'm old enough to remember. I remember getting on dial-up internet and going to Microsoft.com. What did you see there? You saw a software company. There was no hardware. Later, they got into things like MSN and stuff like that, where they sold you the set-top box, but there really was no hardware. For gaming, Microsoft is going to have to get back to being a software company, a game publisher. And I think they're trying to do that, but I think they're going to have to get the hardware off the books and just do it from a software standpoint. Now, what did they do with that hardware? I'm sure Lenovo would make an Xbox. I'm sure Dell Alienware would make an Xbox. I'm sure Asus, who is already making your handheld, would be more than happy to say, okay, we manufacture the Xbox, and let them take the hardware hits, because they have other ways of making that up or improving the product.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, and I'm partially biased on this, so take it with a grain of salt. But I feel customers are more forgiving when the initial buy-in for hardware, when they buy into hardware, they're forgiving on the software because it's a sunk cost for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Microsoft at this point is not making amazing software. And that's where it starts to get a little tricky, because again, we've been seeing stories in the last 4 or 5 months about how much people don't like Copilot in Windows. And if you don't invest in the hardware aspects, and I think this is maybe something Ballmer knew, when you had like the Zune and you had Windows Phone, and he was the one who fought for Xbox. Like, when people can just have their pick of software and you're a software company, that becomes very dangerous. People are complaining about Apple's iPhones, they're complaining about Macs, stuff like that, but they stick with it and they wait it out until something better comes, because they've sunk in the cost for the hardware. But if it's just something software-wise that they're upset with, they will move to Google Workspace, they will move to Office. iWork. It's laughable how many people depend on that, because it's not a good piece of software. No. But people will keep the MacBook. And I'm saying this to say that Microsoft doesn't start turning their software around. Now, again, I agree with you. Maybe they become an all software company. And as long as their software executes like it's supposed to, they're okay. But it feels like they're even wobbly on that, and that could be very dangerous. That's all. Yeah.
All right, let's stay here for just a second. Let me ask you a question. I don't have these specific numbers in front of me, but I know from listening to another pod this morning that Apple makes roughly $1 billion a day in the last quarter.
Yes.
All right. So if you think about that, there's your Activision investment is paid for in 30 days in the Apple income world. Apple has chosen not to invest in AI as deeply as others have. They have their partnership with Google. What is Apple doing software-wise to make all this darn money that others aren't doing that people like? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Because
Well,
clearly people like what Apple has done software-wise at some point. Yes, I get it. When you bought the iPhone 1, you're bought in. I get that. But what did they do that bought you in?
it's the hardware. I'm telling you, they're a hardware company at its roots, and yes, software and services does make them a lot of money, but people are buying in because they've already bought the hardware. And a lot of times that software just comes with it, and they get invested. Like we were talking about last week or a week before that, subscription services, Apple TV, iTunes, like that all needs to run on the hardware that you just bought.
Mm-hmm.
And again, some people buy an iPhone and they'll put Spotify on there or YouTube Music or whatever, but there's still iTunes in the background, Apple TV in the background, even though you watch Netflix, stuff like that, because you bought the hardware. The hardware is where your first entry is. No one's going out and saying, how can I get Mac OS on a Windows device? How can I get iOS on this Samsung? No one's saying that in reverse. Other people might say it the other way around, like, oh, if I could just get, the way that Samsung does this on this iPhone, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I've done that.
If I can get, we had parallels. We had Windows on Macs because they wanted the software, but they wanted that hardware. That's what they're doing. Is the hardware still is impeccable to a certain extent, and people will brush off, poor releases of iOS that are buggy and don't really service them very well and have tons of complaints because they've already invested in the hardware. They're not going to jump from the hardware. So that's what they're doing, I think, to answer your question, and that's how they continue to turn the dial up on the stove by saying, "Here's our hardware. Now we'll just charge a little bit more for the services, and a little bit more for the services, and a little bit more for the services." And that service number goes up while the hardware number either stays the same or, slightly increases, decrease, it kind of wavers. But this line go up continues to go up.
I just find it interesting that Apple has yet to have a bad quarter. They've had some that aren't better than others, but they've yet to have a quarter to where people go, "Oh crap, something's wrong at Apple." They've not had that quarter.
Well, and to Microsoft's defense, they haven't really either.
True. I can see that.
Nadella has done very well by cloud. Now, the reason why we harp on it is because, again, we dig into the numbers. We dig into trends and things like that. So, again, if you just read the numbers, you're like, Microsoft beat expectations. They had a good quarter. The line went up. But because we cover the news all the time, we see that here's the other underlying things that could lead to a potential down the way. And I'm sure Apple insiders and investigators and reporters were all doing the same thing. Like, yes, Apple had an exploding revenue quarter, but if AI is the future, they're not necessarily prepared for that. And I'm sure their reporters are saying that too. So if there's questions about that investment, there's their underlying investigation. We just don't necessarily cover that kind of stuff. So we see line go up and we're like, whoa, that's amazing. With that being said, we've talked enough about earnings. None of that money's going to any of us on this podcast or listening. So let's move on to something that we can use, which is Adobe.
We can use Adobe, and a lot of people, well, that's to be discussed too. A lot of people are using Adobe, but maybe there's a lot of people that aren't. But the good thing about it is Adobe has given you some reasons to maybe not give up on their product just yet. They are out there churning out new features. So we have a big update in the Photoshop world this week, because guess what? Affinity Photo is out there, and Affinity Photo is starting to push on some of the Adobe Creative Cloud customers. So what do you get? Well, non-destructive adjustment layers, and this is something people have been asking for a long time, to be able to have some layers there that you could adjust or you could, make to your liking without them being destroyed. This is something that has been asked for years. I think Affinity Photo has had this feature for years. Dynamic text. I don't see this one a lot myself, but I'm assuming a lot of people use it. You have one-click arch text, bold text. You see the, formatted text. And when you start putting graphics in with that, sometimes you have to go back and adjust that text. I've had to do that on like flyers and advertisements and whatnot. Well, dynamic text will help adjust that text for you when you put your graphics in there. So that is very helpful. We have improvements to Firefly, the AI service. Is anybody surprised that we have improvements to Firefly, an AI service for graphics? No. Generative fill has gotten better. Expand and remove has gotten better. And there is a better resolution or better clarity in the 2K output. Sharper detail, fewer artifacts, better lighting, and accurate prompt matching. So your generative AI will get a little better in Photoshop and Firefly for you. So the question here is it too late? And I'm going to be honest, I dropped the Creative Cloud 2 weeks ago now. We were up to 60 plus bucks a month for the whole thing. We have this thing out there called Canva that came out with their plan that is not quite to the level of the professionalism of Adobe. I get it. $120 a year. We have the Apple Creative Suite. That's roughly 120 bucks a year. Adobe, 60 bucks a month. They're going to have to put a lot more features into Photoshop, Premiere, Adobe After Effects, etc., to get me to go back over there. Now, I'm going to be honest. I have had some growing pains. I have almost pulled out the credit card and said, screw it. I'm going back to Adobe because that's what I'm used to. I like the way that ecosystem works. It fits together great. But we're again 60 bucks a month because that Firefly is expensive. It's good, but it's expensive. I don't know that these updates are enough. I think we need to see better compatibility with Snapdragon. I think we need to see cheaper pricing options because what's out there is just unreal. I mean, if you go to cancel the service, they'll offer you a deal. I think they offered me $29.99 for a year, but here's the catch. You've got to commit to the year, or when you go to cancel, they charge you a prorate of the rest of the year. So there's no get out of jail free card. I don't know that this is enough right now. I get it. Good updates, solid updates, better features, but not enough. What about you?
I agree. I also think this is a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah.
There are a lot of users who are professionals, people who have been doing graphics editing for decades now that use Adobe. And I'm sure they've been managing to do what a lot of these AI features can do just with workarounds. Mm-hmm. These features, I'm assuming, are designed to entice new users who need to get things done quickly and learn on the fly of how to use this kind of stuff, and then become users of the product. The problem is new users aren't going to invest 60 bucks a month for this.
That's right.
You need to get them in first, show them what AI can do, and then do the hook. The problem is that they can't afford to lower the price because they've invested on all these AI features that cost money to do. It costs money to use these models. It costs money to host the servers and all of this. So Adobe's not going to bring the price down, and new users aren't going to jump in with the price so high. So you're at an impasse right now, I think. Will these be beneficial to people that are already paying 60 bucks or 50 bucks, or depending on an arrangement of plans, 40 bucks? I think you can do a couple. I think you can do Premiere and just Photoshop for that amount, or maybe just one of the apps for 40 bucks. I forget, in different situations, but nevertheless, yes, they will find this beneficial because it'll make their work life a little easier. All the workarounds that they've been doing, they don't have to necessarily do. I don't see this gaining more people only because the entry point is so high right now. And again, they have the college discounts and stuff like that. So maybe kids in college who are, need some graphic editing. I'm still assuming if you're in college, $24.99 is a month is still kind of high when you can go to Canva or Affinity or Filmora, all these other offerings for anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks a month. and get just as much creativity or content created with these other platforms. So great on them, good on them to keep pace, because that will have killed them in the end if they're more expensive and offer less. But at least they can at least say we're offering the same amount, just more expensive. Moving on to the next thing, we have France is dropping Teams, and they're saying it's for a bit of digital sovereignty. That is legalese for we don't trust outside nations, in particular the United States, which is home to Microsoft. And I wrote about this particular kind of thing. We've been talking about it on the podcast about how this is going to become more of a trend. And it's partly because of pricing and the economy, worldwide economic economies. And the other part is because our government so far cannot be trusted, in particular, because of recent developments. But nevertheless, France has decided it's going to tone down its uses of Teams over the next 2 years so that it can have its own product. I believe the product is called Visio, VISIO. They plan to be fully migrated by 2027. So they'll still be using Teams for the remainder of this year, but they've also been, over the last year and a half, testing out Visio in their own infrastructure. Part of this, it's part of the suite Numeric, I think it's Asper. It's a national productivity stack. So Teams is just the start of it. Eventually, they will probably drop Office and Microsoft 365 altogether. Microsoft should be a little bit worried about that. But France, I don't know how big of a footprint they leave economically for Microsoft, but it's expected to save, I think it's $1 million per 100,000 users in France. So it could save them a few $1 million to move to their own thing, which is, again, at the end of the day, that's how you justify a lot of these hardships and hard transitions. Again, they're saying the motivation, sovereignty, data control, reduce reliance on US cloud, because I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, Microsoft admitted that it can give Windows encryption keys to immigration, customs, and enforcement. And it's ICE is the more colloquial term we use here in the United States, but it's the paramilitary organization within the United States. It's going about imposing immigration laws. A lot of people don't want that information given out. And we were told that encrypting was the end-all be-all of our privacy and security. It starts with us and ends with us. But Microsoft's saying that's not necessarily the case. And I'm sure France already knew this beforehand, but now they're saying, okay, now that you've admitted it, let's start moving away from that. What are your thoughts on France moving away? And again, I think Germany was trying to do it as well.
I'm not surprised. And I think you're going to see more of this. I think there has been a idea that all these cloud providers we talk about, that's where we need to go. That's who we need to join. Well, now you start looking at, like you said, data safety, information protection, and these countries look at it and go, okay, we're giving all this information to the United States. Look what they may or may not be doing with it. So France says, okay, we'll do something ourselves. We'll do it for our people. We'll do it our way. I think you're going to see more of that. I think some of these other countries that possibly buy things from the U.S. cloud are going to look at some things that's going on in the U.S. without, turning this into a political podcast, and they're going to look at things and go, okay, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with what's going on with data. Doesn't mean Microsoft is necessarily doing anything wrong. Doesn't mean Google, Amazon, Oracle, or any of the other clouds are doing anything wrong. They're just not comfortable with the climate that they see. So they're going to do something else. Does it hurt Microsoft? Like you said, I don't know what the investment for France is, into Microsoft and 365 and Azure and all that good stuff. I have no idea. But it's something to watch. It's something to pay attention to.
I think it hurts in the long run. And I'm talking about over the next 3 to 5 years. We had the case, I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 years ago in Ireland, where they were subpoenaing records from Microsoft, and Microsoft was kind of caught in the middle and suing to say that we can't give you these records because of users in Ireland even though their data is stored in the United States, the United States government wanted access to it. Microsoft was saying, hey, we have, just because the data centers here in the States doesn't mean you have access to the data from international bodies. I think, I forget how that case actually ended up. I think Microsoft may have won that one. But that is, I think, the ringing bell to say, hey, we're going to start seeing more and more of that. Why don't we just bring our stuff in-house? Now, Microsoft offered the interoperability between nations. So again, if France does this, imagine what Spain doing, and Germany, and the UK. I mean, they're all going to probably do that. But how do these things communicate? They're going to need perhaps some kind of Linux-based interoperability kind of thing that serves as Microsoft, but over in the EU necessarily, to help these kind of things work in neighboring nations. Nevertheless, it's still, I think it's a good sign. I think it's bad for Microsoft, but good for customer choice and digital sovereignty, and knowing that, hey, my stuff is here. And if it does get hacked, hopefully it's from within our own nation necessarily. Who knows? I don't see it as a bad thing for users in France. I cheer them on. As a Microsoft user in the United States, don't care. But that's just me personally.
I do applaud them for trying something different, because sometimes it takes a big move to open new doors, and who knows what door this is going to open. So to your point, as a Microsoft user, I applaud them. Now, here in the United States, do I necessarily care? No, but I applaud what they're doing.
Good on you, France. We got Google showing up. This is a story that you wanted to talk about, with grades to Gemini on the browser, I think it is.
Yep. Well, and I kind of have made sure not to touch my Google browser, because when I went to open my notes here for our pod, the Gemini button has been in the top corner for a while, but today I have this new thing up here that kind of leads me in. It says, chat with Gemini in Chrome to get answers and key takeaways as you browse. Try now, or got it, which means got it means leave it alone. So what have we done here? Something that I have been looking forward to, and I'm getting ready to try out here after the pod, just to kind of see how this works. Full integration, it seems, for Gemini into Google Chrome, meaning that if I was to click try now, or you click try now, or click the Gemini button, assuming you have the latest version of Chrome, it will pop up as a window to the right side of your browsing, to where supposedly you never have to leave your browser to be able to ask Gemini questions, which is good. It may get Gemini some more users, because if we have to leave our browsers to do things, we tend to use other products in the process. Guilty as charged here. Google Chrome user would always have Copilot sitting to the right in a screen, or minimized at the bottom. Okay, let me ask Copilot a question. Back to Chrome I go. Gemini misses out because it's not easily accessible. So I get that. Good move. Now to the part that I don't like. We have Google Chrome is becoming an agentic browser, which means it can begin to do things for you without you being in front of your PC. Now, this is a little bit scary here, because I wanted to read this. It can auto browse, it can auto do research, which is good. If you're planning a vacation or planning a recipe, send Google Chrome off on that research thing, and kind of parse through what you get back from AI at the end. But what bugs me here is this UCP, Universal Commerce Protocol, is what that stands for. And this is a standard protocol that has been developed by Google in conjunction with Shopify, places like Shopify, Etsy, Wayfair, Target, and others, that will shop for you. Yes, that means shop and make purchases and do things for you. So essentially, you've got a Shopify store out there. You sell winter coats. Somebody tells Gemini to go find the best winter coat for the snowstorm coming this weekend. You want that in a size large, size extra large. You want that under $200. It goes and makes a purchase. Now, sounds pretty good, doesn't it? You don't have to do the research, nothing like that. It goes, it makes that purchase. Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. What do you do when it screws up?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, to your point, I think shopping has become very personal, not because of the items, but because of the transfer of money, which is a commodity that is very precious and cannot be played around with. To your point, what happens if it does mess up? Maybe it's the wrong size, maybe it pays too much, and you're like, whoa. It's one thing to screw up research. If Google Gemini came back and showed me a picture of RFK, even though I'm asking for Martin Luther King Jr., that doesn't hurt me. I mean, personally it hurts me, but it won't cost me anything. But if it goes out and buys a size too small and there's no return policy on that, now we got a big issue.
And we didn't even get into the security parts of it. That's a whole other ballgame. Things get broken into every day. They get hacked. They get compromised. So something happens and you're at work and you get this notification that the balance in your bank account is now negative. I've been at work. I didn't buy anything. Oh, Google Chrome bought you a set of glasses. It bought you a crystal chandelier. The list goes on. Now you have to deal with the bank. You have to try to justify that you didn't make those purchases. It's not easy to call fraud out on a credit card or a debit card these days. It's not as easy as it used to be. You hit the button and voila, you get your money back. No, these things are investigated. They're going to make sure that you didn't make this purchase. And I love my AI. I have been able to do a lot of things with AI, both Gemini and Copilot included. I'm not comfortable, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be, with an AI bot out there doing my shopping. I get it. It's a feature, but I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Last point, and we'll move on to the next topic. We're showing it on our screen right now. For those of you listening, there's an Expedia booking that we're allowing, we're assuming that someone's going to allow AI or this agentic AI to produce, that means buy tickets, book a hotel, perhaps rent a car, things like that. I think what's missing from a lot of these agentic services is the flexibility of a human. I will sleep in a Motel 6 if it means that my plane ticket's cheaper, my hotel ticket price is much cheaper, and maybe I'll spend a little bit more in the car where my destination is. Like if I'm going to California and I need a car, I'm not going to spend so much in the hotel because I'm going to be out driving. I'd rather spend more money on the car if the car is going to save me more gas. Same thing for the plane ticket. As long as it gets me out there for this particular event. I don't think when you book, if you say, hey, go book me something, it's probably going to book what it feels the most expensive / comforting thing is. So, what could have been a $670, trip to California now is $1,300, $1,500. And you're like, AI, what did you do? What did you do? So I think because an example already.
There, it kind of goes back to paid advertisements. That's the first thing that comes to mind. What stops expensive Hotel A from paying Copilot, Microsoft, or paying Google Gemini to recommend their stuff over everybody else's? What stops that?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Well, with that being said, Microsoft may have a solution, not at least for purchasing, but the resource hog that AI is with this new Maia, I don't know how to pronounce this. I apologize. MAIA 200. It's an AI accelerator that they announced this week, but they've been working on it for, according to Microsoft, years. It's basically the AI equivalent of showing up to a knife fight with a particle accelerator. They are hoping, at least on paper, that's what they're saying. Like this thing is going to do amazing things in the future. Like some of the aspects of this thing is that it has 140 billion transistors. 10 plus petaflops. I think it's 5 plus petaflops. 16 gigabytes HBM3E at 7 terabytes per second. Again, these are all chips that they're looking to basically super powered chips in order to reduce the amount of cloud learning that needs to be done as far as training for the LLMs. 30% better performance per dollar. Liquid cooling is going to be involved. Cluster scales to 61 accelerators, 6,100 accelerators, and it's supposed to be fast tracked, deployed in Iowa. I think is the first places that we're going to start seeing these new chips in servers in Iowa that are, again, supposed to help Microsoft not use as much electricity, not use as much water. Basically, you're like magic bean. This is what it's supposed to be. We'll see if it does what it's supposed to. Because again, remember we had this whole issue. I think Google said this about their TPUs 5 years ago, and the Tensor chip. Well, it's awesome. It's not that great, and they're still burning electricity and water the same way as everyone else. It seems like, and Amazon has this Trainium chip as well. And again, it feels like they produce these chips that are supposed to be doing great things, but also in conjunction with using a ton of resources. It's like, having an Intel laptop and then just putting a bigger battery in there. You haven't solved Intel's ability to create a better chip. You've just given it more life. And it still heats up and fans just as much, just for longer now. What are your thoughts on this new magic bean for Microsoft?
It's interesting that it comes out around the earnings statements, I think, number one. Mm-hmm. Two, I think it's $1 late. Should have had, if they've got this big efficient AI accelerator that can do great things and is less resource intensive and gets AI tasks done better, and you've been working on it for years, why haven't you said something before now? That's my first.
Hold on. I will argue just slightly against that. Is that I'd rather them have something and announce it versus announcing something and not having it.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think I would rather hear this announcement than Nadella standing up going, "We're working on something, but no tangible thing to show for it." I do agree. I do agree with that. So what I want to see from this is using this accelerator that I'm going to call it Maia AI. That's how I'm going to pronounce that for right now, or Maia, whatever. I can't pronounce it either, but I want to see this accelerator, what it can do. Show me a demo.
Yeah.
Show me a demo of this is the way we do it now. This is the way our accelerator does it. Look at the cost saving. Guess what? Microsoft, if this is true, and I'm not saying you're lying, but if this is the great thing, put that demo on. Because you know what? Those investors that you've upset, you will pacify them for a little while. Maybe a long little while. So you announced it, but where's my demo? I need to see that.
I totally agree with you. This could, in fairness, help reshape the way Microsoft basically bids and invest in OpenAI and the data centers in the future. It could hopefully save them some money, which in turn, maybe they could put it towards rehiring some game developers to save the gaming aspect. Mm-hmm. Yes. We know that it doesn't work that way, but that's the idea if we lived in a just society. Nevertheless, we're going to the last story, which is TikTok's ban. And its new terms of service, which is causing a bit of a backlash amongst users and people who aren't even on the platform seem to be upset by this as well. It's a loser all the way around. Let's put it that way. We have, let me see if I can get the details right. I think it was this week, the Ellisons have finalized the purchase sale for TikTok. It is now in US controlled hands. So we don't have to worry about China stealing our data. Now we have to worry about the United States stealing our data. These new terms of service they've expanded data permissions for things like access to your voter registration, like what kind of voter you're registered as. They ask whether or not if you're LGBTQ, trans, a bunch of invasive questions, and they have permission for that now. They want to, I think they actually want regular localized identification as well. They put stricter content moderations in place for language. So I think the one that's been going viral over this weekend has been the mention of the Epstein files. Big thing here in the United States, probably around the world. People have been demonstrating that they can't even put Epstein in direct messages, let alone on videos. And there, there's been some softening about the rhetoric on Zionism and anti-Semitism on the platform. With all that being said, this was heavy-handed. It happened probably 24 hours after the sale was complete, and users immediately felt it. These are some users who had upwards of 1 million followers were seeing that they were getting zero views and likes on their videos. So again, it wasn't even subtle. It wasn't like, hey, but to TikTok's credit, if we want to give them any kind of credit, they came out and said that they had some kind of one of their what did they say? One of their data centers went down or something like that, and that's why people were getting restricted or whatnot. But to put a finer point on this, I believe there's a Palestinian reporter. She has 1.5 million followers. She's been banned from the platform. Don't know why. Up until this week, she was doing just fine. 1.5 million followers, and she got banned permanently. This isn't like, oh, we're going to temporarily review your videos. This is like, get off the platform. We don't ever want to see you again. And that's causing this backlash. What are your thoughts on TikTok doing this?
Oh boy. It's a sign of things to come. I wanted to give that aggressive snapback response there, but I think there's a reality that no TikTok user or no social media user for that matter will control the restrictions, policies, etc. put on any social media platform. And there's content creators out there that make their living off of TikTok. A good portion of their income is off TikTok. They're going to stay on the platform and make that money. And then there's folks out there that are going to continue to use the platform to try to make money. I don't have a problem with that. I understand that everybody right now needs to pay bills because things are expensive. But what I need you to understand is we're slowly seeing the shaping of our money. We're seeing the shaping of our social interactions. We're seeing data being grabbed about what we are, who we are, how we do things. That data is being grabbed and we're being profiled. There's profiles being made of we've got this many transgender people, we've got this many gay people, we've got this many black, this many white, this many Chinese, whatever. Pick your demographic. It will be used. It will be used. And I can promise you it's not being used for good purposes.
No, even crazier is that part of the terms of service thing that they can grab anything. And again, if you have something in a draft, say there was a joke, you're a comedian, and you had a draft of a joke that you wanted, and you're about to share it with the world, but you just weren't confident enough. They could grab that joke, flush it through their AI, and reproduce a video before you even get a chance to publish that. And then when you do, people will be like, we've seen that joke on TikTok. Sorry, man. That's how overbearing these new terms of service are. TikTok hasn't said that they're going to change them either. This isn't like, oh, well, we've heard from the community.
We went too far, and there's no.
This is going forward, yeah.
How well does it work for TikTok? Will determine. I'm gonna say it. I'm going there. How well this works for TikTok will determine whether your YouTube adopts similar policies, whether your Facebook adopts similar policies, whether your X/Twitter adopts similar policies. Because guess what? There's groups of people out there that believe that money is being spent on things it shouldn't be and things so they're going to continue to profile to narrow that down to get things the way a certain group of people wants them to be. Watch what you post, read where you're posting. It's happening.
In my write-ups, and go check the website, I do link off to a bunch of other platforms people can jump ship if they want to, if they can't afford to, if they have the luxury of doing so. To David's point, sometimes people don't have the luxury of being able to leave the platform for business purposes, for contact purposes, maybe people that they know are only on this one. So I don't begrudge anybody who stays. But if you have the option to, this is only, seems to be the only way in the United States, for the most part, the only way we can protect our own selves, because, it's like the EU or UK where the government does it, is to use your money. And you can do that by leaving the platform. And just a little side note, Oracle, which is the company that owns this, is reportedly overextended in AI, which is why the company or the owners of Oracle are trying to get into buying Warner Brothers and social media, because they're trying to diversify their dollars. But if they can't find the next lily pad, which would be TikTok, because all the users are gone, and AI falls apart, you do with that information what you will, if you want a little sharding for it. So if you can, leave the platform. There's several other places. There's Upscroll, there's Red Note, there's Lemonade. These are all, these are the companies, two of them were companies that also backed or helped provide infrastructure for TikTok. So if you want that same sort of like and feel, go to those two. Again, I know they were talking about, China's going to need your information. China can buy your information if they chose to. They don't need to necessarily steal it this way. The United States is using it, and to what ends, we don't know. But if you care about any of that stuff, make your move. Last bit of things we got is something we're trying to go out on a high note. We always give you these depressing stories throughout the broadcast, but we got free play days. If you don't want to be bothered with social media, just go play a game.
Yes, let's end this on something positive here. We've got a strong lineup this weekend for the folks that need some free games to play, need something positive. I know I need something positive. We've got Fallout 76, an open world nuclear Appalachian. We have For Honor, which is First Samurai. That is kind of where you just kind of get dropped into a battle. And a mode called Starter Domination is newcomer friendly. We have Dead by Daylight, a horror multiplayer with Stranger Things content. We have Grounded 2, a backyard survival adventure with a new community garden biome. So let's get into why we have these titles. This is called free play days. They're free. Microsoft generally kicks them off on the Thursday before the weekend. So these are January 29th through February 5th. We've got some exceptions this week, though. We have Dead by Daylight is extended to February 9th, so there's no memberships required for these. No Game Pass membership required. You can go to xbox.com and click on the title, add it to your library, play it free for the weekend, check it out, make sure you like it, have some fun, forget about it come Monday if you want to, or make sure you take care of the discounts, get it while it's cheap. These free play days are usually fairly cheap gaming. For example, Fallout 76 is $7.99, For Honor is just $2.99. We have Dead by Daylight is $11.99, and Grounded 2 is $29.99. Again, access those through Xbox.com or on your console, the convoluted way, in my opinion. Open up your profile, go down to your membership, go down to free play days, and you will see them listed there. Pick them up, try them out. It's cold here where I am. It's going to be snowing. I'm going to be playing some Fallout 76 this weekend. I've always wanted to try that. My friend in Florida, where it's warmer, yes, you can sense the sarcasm there, where it's warmer, probably the sun's out, where I would really love to be. What are you doing this weekend, or are you just going to go outside, out there where the fresh air is, and have fun. What are you doing this weekend?
I'm going to stay inside as for a little sympathy. I'm going to do it just for you, just so we're in the same boat. No, I'm actually an introvert, so I don't like going outside anyway. But it's supposed to be a little cooler out here, a little bit cooler. So we may have some of your cold weather down this weekend.
60 degrees.
I'm just not going to say anything else. It might get down to 56. Thank you.
56.
No, I've been playing Hades. I'm still playing Hades because I just got to the second part of the game. I guess what is considered second. It is a very hard game. It is fun. It is very replayable because they gift you different abilities each time. So your strategy changes each time. You can't go in with like, oh, I've mastered this part of the strategy. I'm going to execute it every time. They give you different things, which makes the game infinitely more fun to play. So I'll be playing that. I will also try out Fallout 76 because I am a huge fan of the show so far, and I did Fallout 4. Yes, and I played New Vegas back in the day. So if I get my hands on another Fallout game, I am definitely all for it. So those would be the things I'm doing. Where can people find you and talk to you and hang out with you if they want to game with you?
Well, since it's going to be cold, I'm going to just give somebody some clues. Tomorrow morning and Sunday morning, the wind chills will be single digits or below here. So I'll let my Florida friend enjoy his sweatshirt and his shorts. But catch me on Blue Sky, David PAJ 1978. Or on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/DavidPAJ. I usually get on there and stream at least 3 times a week, probably getting in some extra time this weekend. Might see me eating a little snack over here on the side. I'm going to try to make myself some enjoyable food a little bit and try to turn this into a positive weekend. We don't have any football this weekend. We've got some NASCAR racing. For those that know that I'm a NASCAR fan, we do have a little NASCAR racing Sunday, but I plan to, as of now, stream tonight and stream tomorrow night, providing the snowstorm keeps us with power and warm.
You can find me at Happy Hulk. That's all one word, at Blue Sky as well. That's where I am there talking about politics, talking about comics. You can also find me at Kareem Anderson, where I'll be doing the same on Threads. You won't find me on TikTok. I was never really on there to begin with, but I am moving away from that as well. I've joined Upscroll. There's not a lot of people there, but if you're there, I will also be there. Like I said, I'll be playing Threads probably on my Lenovo Legion or on my Nintendo Switch, either one, because that game is super fun to play. And then if I'm not playing a game, if I'm not online, it's because I'm outside enjoying my 56-degree weather. Thank you. A little cold. I will put on a sweater and long sleeves. Thank you.
You know what? I would do 56-degree weather right now.
And maybe I'll make myself some hot chocolate as well. Ooh, it's gonna be so cold. Those of you out there, we want you guys to stay warm from the East Coast. If you can, go out and enjoy whatever you can. If you're indoors, enjoy. Oh, you can. Maybe some people will take the time that they're stuck indoors to do some long-awaited cleaning. Get an early start on that spring cleaning everyone's always talking about. If not, maybe go take yourself a bubble bath, light some candles, listen to some music, read a book. I don't know. Just do something fun. Enjoy it as much as you can. And we will see you guys again next week.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.